Hi, everyone. It's Friday. It's November 20th. It's 1 p.m. Pacific time, and I'm Alison Pitt. Hello. This is Daily Star Trek Views. I can already see a couple people in the chat. Hi, BC says, "Yay, I made it." You're almost one better than me. Literally minutes ago, I was coming up here, turning on all my lights and everything. So, as per usual, we'll see how it goes today. I'm looking forward to having a conversation. Look, I have my it's my Star Trek mug. It's almost as big as my head. Um, my friend Tracy bought this for me for my birthday last year, and I love it to death. It's wonderful. It says, "I am functioning within normal parameters." That usually only happens when the coffee is down at the bottom. So anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad to have you here. Hi to everybody. Paul, Hosen Zarfungal. I really hope that's your real name. Zach Cody. Oh, Chris is here. Everyone say hi to Chris. Andrew Kaiser. Mohammed. Hey, Mohammed. Oh, hi from Costa Rica from Nomi. I'm probably butchering your name. I apologize. Nomi, Wes, Paul, and Richard. Hi, Richard. Oh, it's wonderful. It is wonderful to see all of you here. Thank you so much for joining. We've got it's going to be I like to do like a thing at the beginning that is not strictly Discovery, and then we'll go into talking about Discovery a little bit later. So today I've got a couple of things that happened this week that I didn't cover in the show, and I'm going to talk about those. I like doing those because they're it's fun to give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes on things that don't quite make the cut of what we would consider news. So I've got a couple of those stories. It's all gossip. It's all gossip about men. Men like to say that women gossip all the time, and we're really terrible with gossip. And that is not necessarily true in the fandom. So that's fun. And then, we will talk about Star Trek Discovery, Season 3, Episode 6, Scavengers. Before I get going, I just want to remind you, please subscribe if you haven't already. Probably you already are if you're here, but after the fact, this video will stay up and new people might not necessarily know. So there's probably a button down there somewhere. Please subscribe. That would help us out a lot. And also, if you are interested in supporting the show, if you can support the show on Patreon, you can go check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. That would help us out a lot. There's tiers from just $1 a month, and all of that helps us out. So if you are able to, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Right. So 2 stories. So a little bit of background. A lot of you are pretty familiar faces that I've told you about the way that we kind of choose stories. And Chris and I basically on a daily basis will go through, we have various RSS feeds, various websites, or a lot of times I actually go on Twitter and literally search for Star Trek and check out, what the buzz is. 2 stories that I've seen multiple times in my feed this week and chosen not to do. One of them is about Wil Wheaton, and the other one is about Simon Pegg and Quentin Tarantino. So the Wil Wheaton one first. Background on this one. Let me see. Which I've lost. I apparently have closed the tab. Just one second. Let me see. Here we go. I'll actually put these in. I don't know if you guys will find these interesting at all, but I'll put them. I'll put the links in. The first one is I've seen a lot of variations on this one. Wil Wheaton did an interview with Metro.co.uk, and for those of you who are not familiar with the UK newspaper system. The Metro is, I wouldn't say it's one of the like top tier newspapers, but it is a daily paper. And at least when I was living there and commuting on the tube all the time, they gave away free versions. And so it's not like the super it's not like the super big the Times or anything like that, but it is a respectable newspaper. It's not like a tabloid or anything. Wil Wheaton was giving an interview, which was basically publicity for Rent-A-Pal. It's his latest film that just came out. There's a review for Rent-A-Pal on Daily Star Trek News, and I highly recommend that you go and read the review and go and watch the movie, actually, because I really, really liked it. It came out, I think, just before Halloween. Um, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically like Wil Wheaton plays this guy, Andy, who is on a VHS, like it's Rent-A-Pal, like you pop the VHS in and he like talks to you. And it centers around Andy and the other main character whose name I can't remember, who's a carer for his elderly mother. And how their relationship as it is kind of blurs the line between reality and just sort of horror fiction. Really cleverly done, really moody, slow paced, and it builds. It's actually like, I really liked it, and I'm not a horror fan, so take from that what you will. Anyway, he was giving an interview promoting Rent-A-Pal in the UK, and in the course of the interview, talked about the fact that acting for him is very traumatic and triggering. And first of all, I don't like doing stories like that. I feel like I just don't like talking about other people's traumas. It's not like I just don't like doing it. But if it's newsworthy, I will do. This story I've seen repeated many times, all referring back to the Metro article, and I decided I don't want to do it in my show because this is like a well-known thing. Wil Wheaton struggles with acting, and the implications of acting are pretty well documented, and he's done it himself. He's documented himself. So I think if you are somebody who wants to know more about Wil Wheaton and his relationship with acting and his history and his past, read his books. He's a really, really good writer, and he's got some great sort of not really memoir styles, but they're like books of essays. Just a Geek and The Happiest Days of My Life are two that I read, and they were really, really good. He's a very talented writer, and you can support him that way, and you should support him that way. And also go see Rent-A-Pal. But I don't really like the idea of people trading on the salacious, traumatic acting story. I mean, I guess he said it in public, so take from that what you will. But he's a great person that I respect. So go read his books; they're very good. Excuse me. So the next one, which is like, God, Quentin Tarantino, I feel like it's an inevitability that he will make a Star Trek movie one day, if only because it's the idea that won't die. Like I mean, it was last year this time when he really, put the nail in that coffin and was like, I'm not doing Star Trek. And people can't stop writing about it. So the other one that came out this week was it was an IndieWire article that resurrected this feud that is not a feud. It wasn't a thing. The background of all of this is, of course, as you know, Tarantino I think he helped write, or he helped conceptualize the idea for a Star Trek film, which apparently is out there in a box at Paramount somewhere. It seemed to be loosely based on a piece of the action. It was going to be a Star Trek gangster film. He spoke really highly of the Kelvin Timeline crew, but I'm not sure if it was ever going to be the Kelvin Timeline crew. We don't know. I mean, it was it went pretty far down the line. I believe it had a writer, and the script was done and everything, but it's not happening. Now, on the flip side of that, you've got Simon Pegg, who is really well known for just spouting his mouth off, especially about Star Trek. Like, the number of articles that I've recapped where he's just really ripped into the marketing team for instance, Beyond. He doesn't watch his words very closely. And so some time ago, where was it? It was in, I wrote a note down, I think it was July of 2019. Simon Pegg had said something like, well, if Tarantino does a film, it's not going to be Pulp Fiction in space. And then Tarantino was talking to Deadline about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And of course, that promotional tour was the one where he was like really hamming it up on Star Trek because people kept giving him column inches for it. So again, take of that what you will. And so he was talking to Deadline about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and said, I literally have it right here. I get annoyed at Simon Pegg. He doesn't know anything about what's going on, and he keeps making all these comments as if he knows about stuff. One of the comments he said, he's like, well, look, it's not going to be Pulp Fiction in space. Yes, it is. And basically, Quentin Tarantino was like, if I make a Star Trek movie, it's going to be Pulp Fiction in space because I'm Quentin Tarantino. To be clear, I am not Quentin Tarantino. If I was Quentin Tarantino, I would say I'm Quentin Tarantino. Anyway, so apparently off of that, people thought that Quentin Tarantino and Simon Pegg were having this big fight. Okay. And then fast forward to now, because keep in mind that interview where Quentin Tarantino said that he was annoyed with Simon Pegg was in July of last year. And I know we've all been in lockdown, but that was over a year ago. Simon Pegg was recently talking to the Radio Times out of the UK again, and the article was more focused on his series Spaced and why it's not coming back. But they did talk about Star Trek, and he he relayed a story that they'd seen each other at a party for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and they'd kind of buried the hatchet. Of course, I didn't know there was a hatchet. I don't even think they thought there was a hatchet, but people said there was a hatchet, and it's apparently buried. So we've gone from an off-the-cuff comment by Simon Pegg, who doesn't know anything about a Quentin Tarantino film because he doesn't. Then to July of last year to November of this year, a fictional feud that does not exist, and to my knowledge never has existed. So needless to say, I didn't do that as part of my show. I do think that kind of thing is really funny in Hollywood, though, because the Hollywood rags and the gossip columns, like to talk about that sort of thing and manufacture feuds between people because it provides them a through line that they can then write loads of articles, and then one person says something about something, and then they've got they've got like 6 more articles because they can write about the thing that happened and all of the other stuff that happened in the past. I'm ranting. But you will see that story over and over again. That's the deal. That's what happened. And it's not a thing. So, we still don't know anything about the movies. We have not heard anything from Paramount. And we're not going to. We will hear when they announce a new film, or we will hear when something comes out, but nobody from there is ever going to say, oh yeah, we're not doing films. I think I've talked about this before in a live show. So, be happy with what we've got. We've got 8 series on television. I think we're good for now. We should just be okay with it. And then just watch the one with the whales over and over again. That's what I recommend. Anyway, I'm going to take a break, take a breather, because I've been ranting about gossip. And look at some comments. Thank you, Chris. Chris is helping out in the chat with details about Rent-A-Pal. Chris also saw Rent-A-Pal. He thought it was good. Yes, Brian Landis Fulkins is David. And Amy Rutledge, who was am not familiar with her as an actor before this, and she does a really, really wonderful job in this. I just thought it was wonderful. Andrew McCaffrey says, I would like to see QT. I assume that means Quentin Tarantino, and I assume that means you're not calling him a cutie. I'd like to see him do a short trek. Wouldn't take years to do, and he'd be able to do something short and sweet quickly. Yeah, I agree. I'm waiting for short treks to like kick in. There's so much they could do with short treks that they're just kind of like, I think they're making it too hard right now. I don't care. I don't want it to come in with the main show. I don't want it to tie in. I just want a fun Star Trek story, just like a little one. So hope they get that. Wes agrees that Beyond's marketing did suck. Yeah, that whole film, that whole story was really, really sad. I remember because I was doing Priority One at the time, and it was. I think it's fair to say that Beyond was beleaguered with changes of writers and everything like that, and then it just didn't do well enough to keep the momentum going. Ironically, Into Darkness is still like the highest grossing Star Trek film of all time, I think. And it just kind of never recovered from Beyond, which is sad. Let me see. Okay. Scorsese Trek would be fun. And Paul says, yeah, we don't need Star Trek movies right now. Did we ever need Star Trek movies? Actually, that's a stupid question because I think Star Trek the Motion Picture is one of the most important sci-fi films of all time, but that's for another day. Yeah, I especially with the fact that we're not going to theaters right now. We should not be going to theaters right now. I'm okay to take a break for a little while. Let's see what happens with the series, and then we can keep going. Speaking of the series, I want to talk about Discovery, but first I do just want to remind you that our Patreon page is at patreon.com/daily Star Trek news. So if you are able to contribute to us, that would really help out a lot. There's, it's, our show is expanding and it's improving, and it's kind of wonderful to see. I'm seeing a lot of new faces here in the chat and also on our social media interacting, which is wonderful. And we've hit a couple milestones. We just hit on YouTube 1,000 watch hours, which is kind of amazing. And we're closing in on 500 subscribers, which is also really amazing. And we do that through the support of people like you, especially all of you guys who are in the chat right now and chatting. This is helping me, so I really appreciate it. And we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. So right. So let's talk about Discovery. As you know, I don't really do like a whole recap thing. I don't think I would do it justice because I really haven't had time, and we don't really have time to talk about it here. So I'm not going to do a whole gigantic recap. I have written some notes in my handy notebook, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of pretty key things that I think happened in this episode and what I think about them. This was another pretty linear episode. It just sort of things happened one after the other, but they did this thing. They sprinkled a lot of foreshadowing in there, which was interesting. All of Georgio's little her flashbacks. There was something else that I forgot, which I'm sure that I will come on to in a minute. They moved forward the story between Adira and Gray, which has kind of really taken a back burner the last episode or two, and I think they're kind of letting that simmer before coming back to the forefront, because I feel fairly certain that Gray is going to serve a purpose at some point in the future. But the thing that I really noticed, and I meant to look up who wrote this episode. This was a very, again, pretty Star Trek. It wasn't particularly sci-fi. I mean, there was technology, but it wasn't super sci-fi. but there was a lot of relationship building in it. And two relationships that I wanted to call out specifically were Burnham and Georgio and Burnham and Saru. You'll be glad to know that I'm going to be completely smug about the fact that, like, on this show last week, I was like, why is Burnham even the command, like the second in command? It makes no sense. And she got fired. So I like I'm totally smug about the fact that I was on the ball on that one. Although I think they telegraphed that pretty hard, so I can't really I don't think it's me being that clever. But yeah, the two relationships that I really enjoyed watching evolve this week were Burnham and Georgio, and also Saru and Burnham. And so I'll talk about Burnham and Georgio first. So I've always found it really interesting. Well, always since we found out about Empress Georgio. I really don't understand. They keep telling us that there's this sort of huge connection between the two of them, and I don't really understand that because Georgio knows that this is not her Burnham, and I've never quite felt that. I get that Burnham had a deep connection to her Georgio, and I know that Georgio had a deep connection to her Burnham, and so they have a commonality there. I've never really felt as though the two of them directly connected, except by proxy through their dead familiars. So that is a bit weird for me. But I liked them teaming up in this episode. And I try to avoid speculation because you could go down a dark hole, but I thought it was sort of, if you think of it on like a meta level, you're kind of watching both of them move towards the middle because up to this point in this series, Georgio has been extremely like getting up to her old tricks, and Burnham has been trying to fit into the disciplined box, and she has never been that person. I mean, and I don't know if it's repression from having been raised by Vulcans, I don't know, but since, episode 1 of Discovery season 1, she mutinied, and or was it episode 2? I can't remember. She's never fit into that mold, and I don't know whether this is her admitting that she's not going to fit into that mold, that's why she's moving towards Georgio, or whether this is going to be part of her story arc that she's going to fit back into the mold. I personally think it will be a shame if she ever ends up in that strict first officer mode. I think that would be a waste of her talents in universe as a Starfleet officer, because she's at her best absolutely when she goes rogue. You know it. I know it. Georgio knows it. I think Saru knows it too. Little side note on Georgio. I can't remember if I said this on this show or whether it was just something I talked about privately, but boy, do I hope that whole, like, that little comment they made about, oh, we found this little chimeric strain in your DNA that makes you evil. And then she's all like, oh, don't subscribe my inherent evilness to biology. Like, I really, really hope that wasn't foreshadowing that they've done something to her that's gonna like turn her good. Because I don't want her to be good. I want her to be evil. She's Empress Georgio. She was like evil and terrible and awesome. And I don't want them to neuter her, and all of this stuff that's happening is kind of upsetting me, and I don't want it to happen. We'll see. Just gonna put a pin in that because I'm trying to avoid that kind of level of speculation. But yeah. Saru and Burnham, just really quickly, I think it's wonderful that Saru has finally realized that she's not the person that he wants her to be. He's so desperately, like, he's thinking back to when they were on the Shenzhou together, and he knows that she was a rogue back then, and she's been a rogue ever since, and I think he's now admitting to himself that she's just not going to be what he wants. The scene between them where he basically demoted her from first officer was heartbreaking for me because I could see how much it meant to both of them and how hard it was. But Burnham knew it was the right thing to do, and so did Saru, and I think they were both good by the end of it. One thing that I found was hilarious. so watch it again. So Saru fires Burnham and very dramatically walks off with his arms swinging. He's walking off across this big hall and then uses his personal transport to leave, which I just found hilarious. I actually laughed out loud when I watched it because it was like when you have a fight with somebody and you try to like dramatically leave the room and then it just goes wrong, or you realize that like you were in the room to begin with and they need to leave. It was so it kind of worked because it kind of worked with the style, and the him beaming out was a nice little punctuation mark. But the idea that you'd have a conversation with somebody and then walk across the room and then beam out was like it's obviously it's like 24 hours later and it still makes me laugh hysterically. Anyway. Whew. Last thing about relationships that I wanted to say is that I absolutely loved this scene between Stamets and Culper when they were in bed and talking to each other. That felt so real and it felt so heartfelt to me. I haven't really thought much about Stamets and you know how he has evolved as a person, being a very lonely person, having dealt with the death and then the subsequent rebirth of his husband. I think that scene in that setting, in that intimate and emotional moment, is a really good piece of representation in a show that is not ostensibly about gay men and their relationships. I thought it was really great to have that on screen, and they're just so cute together. I love it. Anyway, okay, so that's kind of yeah, that's what I thought about the relationships that they established in this episode of Discovery. So really cute. Sorry, I'm just looking through the chat really quick. Let's see. Sorry. Oh, and Linus. Yes. I like the addition of Linus. I think it's almost verging on cheesy. But I think that having him punctuating the drama with moments of levity is helping to improve the tone of the entire series. So I heart Linus. Oh, and Paul mentions, the scene between Stamets and Adira. Yeah, that was a really heartfelt scene. Blue Del Barrio is totally pulling her weight amongst a much more mature crew. I am really, really impressed at the way that they have kind of slotted in, and they're really young, and I'm very impressed with them as an actor. So this is actually a really good segue. Mohammed in the chat has said, my favorite line was Bryce, hell yeah we do, about needing all this technology. I have literally written down in my notebook, retrofit, not a huge fan in capital letters yet. I'm willing to I'll see where it goes. I don't get all the weird like things floating for floating's sake. I kind of hate the detached nacelles because what the hell are Eaglemoss gonna do? Also, like, as a former person who did physics, I don't understand why you wouldn't just build a thing that once you build it, it sort of stays there, rather than something that constantly needs an input of energy in order to kind of maintain its integrity. I just don't like it. Makes me feel weird. It's like it to me, it's the equivalent of like going to the grocery store and leaving literally every light on in your house. Like I don't quite understand it. And I think I talked about this in a very early episode that I don't the whole programmable matter is great until it doesn't work. And then there's like I don't know, but I guess that's true of anything on those consoles. So I don't who hands okay, you can't show me your hands, but hands up, who's gonna miss a tricorder and a comm badge and a phaser? Like, I'm surprised there's no phaser in this stupid little badge, right? Because it's always been sort of a thing since TOS that you have a device for communication, a device for scanning things, and a device that's a weapon, right? So, and now, like your communication and your pad and your tricorder and everything is in the little badge, which is cool. I question their merchandising opportunities. Just saying. But I don't it's just I don't know. It feels too easy for me. And now I want them to hold something. But maybe I'm a Luddite. Maybe that's because I did my college applications on typewriters. I don't know. So I'm not a huge fan of it yet. Um, I honestly really my first concern is about the Eagle Moss ships because like here's my there's my Enterprise. I love my Enterprise. Um, how are you going to do detached nacelles on an Eagle Moss ship? I'm sure Ben Robinson has an idea, but I don't get it. So it's fine. We'll go with it. It's very science fiction-y, future-y, and the crew seems to be happy. So I think we'll let it slide. Right. So that's it. That's it for me. Unless anybody else has any other particular questions. Oh wait, one other thing. Those dot sevens are getting intrusive now, and I want them to go away. They're very cute. They're like porgs to me. So I expect there to be stuffed ones out for Christmas. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you again for turning up. It's wonderful to have a bit of people in the chat things to say. Feel like I'm not just talking into the void. I do appreciate it. Once again, please make sure if you're not already subscribed that you hit the subscribe button and also hit the like button if you're here in the chat. That would be a really big help too. It kind of boosts that in the rankings for YouTube, and it helps the visibility of the video. So I really appreciate that too. And that's it for today. Oh, next week there will be. Should I do a live stream next week? I'm probably not going to do a live stream next week. No, I'm gonna because next week. Oh God. All right, I'm doing a live stream next week. I'm saying it now, and it's just going to be about Discovery. I'm not going to talk about news because I'm only doing half a week news because I'm only doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday shows. Here's the problem: next week, if it was any other week, I would just take it off, right? But I'm just, I'll turn up for a half an hour. Here's the deal: Thanksgiving Day, Thursday the 26th. The title of the episode is Unification 3. How do you not turn up for that? Unification 3 with the Roman numerals, and it better be something good with Vulcans and Romulans or I'm gonna riot. That's all I have to say. If I turn up for Unification 3 and it has nothing to do with Vulcans or Romulans, I'm gonna be pissed. Yeah, and I'll bring leftovers. I'll bring leftovers to the show on Saturday or on Friday. So yeah, tune in next Friday. We'll talk about Unification 3. Come with your theories. Come with your questions, and we'll have a little bit of Thanksgiving fun. Anyway, thank you very much again. I know I've said it a million times before, but I do really appreciate it, and I like you guys being here. So thanks. And that's it. Live long and prosper.